Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2016 horror thriller Hush. The film is written and directed by Mike Flanagan and co-written by Kate Siegel, who also stars in the film with John Gallagher Jr. Now, the film focuses on Kate Siegel's character, Maddie, who is a deaf mute. She's a writer. She kind of lives out in the middle of nowhere. She's only really got one neighbour, her friend Sarah, who comes over to visit here and there. But she's trying to finish her last book, and then this one fateful night, there is a character that turns up, simply called the Man in a Mask, that decides to stalk her, make her life hell, and inevitably try and kill her. And it is up to Maddie to use her smarts to try and figure a way out of this. Right, what are my thoughts on Hush? Well, this is a film I've had on my watch list for a long, long time. I've never got round to checking it out. I became far more interested in this film when I realised that it was Mike Flanagan that had written and directed this, and Mike Flanagan has turned in this last decade or so, has turned into one of the finest writer-directors out there. He gave us Haunting of Hill House, sorry, on Netflix, Midnight Mass. He's done so many great things. Oculus, he is a really, really fine horror director and writer. And for those of you who don't know, Kate Siegel is in actual fact his wife. They wrote this film together. I don't think they were married at the time. I think they got married in 2016. I might be wrong on that. If I am, someone will correct me in the comments, I'm sure. But yeah, so they wrote this as a partnership, this film, the concept of it. And while I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a big fan of home invasion films, I find them a bit samey. Do you know what I mean? There's very few home invasion films that kind of do something different. There are a handful out there that do it, but ultimately it's the same thing, you know what I mean? Someone, threatens to get in your house, gets in your house. Most of the time they've got masks on, and then it's a fight for survival. And while this film is very much like that, when you've got someone as skilled as Mike Flanagan crafting this and directing this, and you've got someone as skilled as Kate Siegel performing in it, and you've got someone like John Gallagher Jr. being really menacing here, then you do have a very, very fine example of a home invasion film, which is exactly what this is. I watched this on Netflix with my wife a few nights ago, and it's my first watch. I'd never seen it before, and we both absolutely loved it. We were gripped, because ultimately this film becomes a fight for survival, certainly for the Maddie character, but it's a cat and mouse game as well, you know what I mean? They're both trying to outdo each other. They're both trying to outthink each other. So one of them will get the upper hand, and the other one will get the upper hand. And it was much more brutal as well than I expected it to be. I didn't think it was going to be as graphic and brutal as it turned out to be. And it just was. I think one of the mistakes they made in this film, if you could really pin a mistake on it, was they unmasked the killer a little bit soon, for my liking. I think sometimes the mystique of not knowing who it is, almost like a faceless, nameless person, sometimes makes it more frightening. And I think the reveal would have been more impactful. Not that it's like a reveal, oh, it's you sort of thing, because it's not someone that she knows or anything like that. But for me, it took away some of the mystique of this, character, making him nameless and faceless sort of thing. So that, I think that's the only thing, I would have liked to have seen carry on a bit longer, the fact that he kept his mask on, and almost that he was unwilling to take his mask off, and maybe he was either made to have no choice to take it off, or she kind of took it off herself in a scuffle that they have in this film. Because believe you me, they definitely have a number of scuffles here. There are moments where you feel like shouting at the TV, no, don't do that. That's not going to work. And then there are other moments you're kind of like, yes, get in there. Go on, girl. You get him, sort of thing. And then there's other moments where you're kind of like, no, because you think he's getting the upper hand. Films like this are very, very difficult to pull off, in a sense of, for a good 85% of this film, it is just Kate Siegel on screen and John Gallagher Jr. There are other characters turn up, like I say, this Sarah character, her friend, turns up for a scene at the beginning to establish the friendship. There's another character that turns up, John, who is the partner of this Sarah. He turns up later into the film. But that's pretty much it. You don't get anybody else. She gets her on a Zoom call with her sister, I believe it is. That's it. It is just these two characters for the vast majority of this film. And that is not easy to pull off, to keep the interest up. Especially when one of the characters cannot talk. She's deaf and she's mute. So how does this film play around with that? And it does it very, very creatively. At times it makes us feel what she's feeling, in a sense of, when she can't hear and stuff. So there are moments where you're feeling that as well, because the director cleverly kind of removes all noise and sound. And how she can kind of try and use that to her advantage and this kind of stuff. And it for a film like this, obviously because she's a deaf mute, there is very little dialogue. Very little dialogue. There's big chunks of this film with no dialogue at all. It is just visual. I think it's very creative and a very inventive film, this, and it sits very, very nicely into the home invasion genre, and it stands very proudly near the top, I would suggest, certainly of the ones I've seen anyway. And like I say, it is not a subgenre of the like horror thrillers that I am massively keen on. Generally speaking, like I say, I do find them a little bit samey. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I'm really, really glad I checked it out. And it's on Netflix right now, guys, if you guys want to watch it. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.